analyzed the data, we've had plumbers come out, and we just keep being told there's a leak, there's a leak, there's a leak. There's no leak. The owners of this property are a small family-owned business that provide affordable, clean housing to people in Atlanta. This is an 8-unit multiplex that is inspected regularly by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. These are good apartments for working class people. This is the kind of housing that we should be incentivizing in the city of Atlanta. And yet my clients have had no luck getting a water meter installed. They have even volunteered to pay for the water meter, to which point they were told by the water installation department that that was not possible. So first and foremost, I need this board's help in clarifying the ability of the appeals board to recommend that a new meter be installed. I was told yesterday the citation from council was 154-2, which has nothing to do with watershed. It's a water treatment code. I read the code section 154-67 that says watershed does have the authority to install meters and charge the customer. Well, the customer is ready to pay for that as soon as we find out how much it is. I need to know how much a meter is. Nobody can even tell me how much it is or how we can get it installed. Further, my client and the owner of the property is interested in settling with the city. We have budgeted $600 per month for a period of almost 24 months. That's like $25,000 that we're ready to give to you to help to pay the services that the city offers. But just making a lump sum payment doesn't fix the meter issue. So I would just request that this board clarify that appeals has the ability to recommend a meter. And Councilman Shook, I've seen your recent news on that. I know that there have been 2 class action lawsuits regarding the manufacturers of meters. Nobody wants that. Let us just pay for a meter, clear this issue so that my clients can continue to provide safe, clean, affordable housing to residents in Atlanta. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Councilmember Boone.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. We have our commissioner here of Watershed. She's here, and if you would exchange numbers with her. Commissioner Browning, Ms. Glenn, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I do want to acknowledge we've been joined by Councilmember Dustin Hillis. Next, we have Mr. Ron Shakir.
Ron Shakir, Southwest Atlanta. Appreciate the opportunity. The Utilities Committee have been a very important part of what the City of Atlanta do is to provide service, essential services, and make sure that they're delivered. But also, it was a unique oversight of an organization that provided access to people to produce programs. One of those programs, channels, was People TV, public access as one of those spots. And we know the City of Atlanta have lost public access channels before. One was a fire station. I don't know how that happened. But for sure, the action has been taken against People TV recently by a newcomer to Atlanta, a newcomer to Georgia, in which he found it was enough patience and to have been given to public access People TV, and he pulled the plug. People TV is black. Many of y'all have been here for some years, People TV, over 30 years, somewhere around there. And I've always been a viewer of public access TV, the government channel, when I can't make it down here, as you well may think, that I probably have always viewed these type channels, yes. But recently, I became a producer on People TV. Many have gone from People TV to Hollywood. Jose Williams, may God have mercy on his soul, he used to produce on People TV. What he produced was voices. He would have 7 and 8 men in a semicircle talking about the issues of Atlanta and Georgia in the United States and throughout the world. People TV matters. And it'd be a shameful situation that the newcomers, the new mayor, would sit quietly by while public TV channel 24 goes and continue to be on black. I would hope that the mayor of the City of Atlanta, the new mayor, Dickens, will stand up and do everything immediately to put People TV back on the channel of where people have viewed them for over 30 years or more. The studios still present an opportunity for people to engage in voices that used to be a city council person here, but before that, he was a comrade, a lieutenant of our real citizen of Martin Luther King. He was a member of that staff. He was a lieutenant in there. Please get People TV back on immediately. Thank you so much. Hope to hear from y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Shakur. I want to acknowledge we've been joined by Councilmember Antonio Lewis. Also, I just wanted to acknowledge that regarding community access media, that the RFP for that went out on Tuesday, June the 20th. So I know that is an active solicitation that's out now. At this time, Mr. Johnson, I'd like to get on with the regular agenda.
Mr. Chair, may we take items 1 through 5 together as a block as requested by the Department of Watershed Management?
Yes, thank you.
Section F, ordinance for second reading, item number 1, 23-0-1313, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget an amount of $7,500,000.00 to transfer funds from watershed reserves for appropriations and add funds to the Niskey Lake Dam Repair Phase 2 project and for other purposes. Item number 2, 23-0-1314, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget an amount of $1,000,000.00 to transfer funds from watershed reserves for appropriations and add funds to the Niskey Lake Culverts project and for other purposes. Item number 3, 23-0-1315, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget an amount of $1,740,000.00 to transfer funds from watershed reserves for the appropriation and add funds to the various supervisory control and data acquisition system improvements project and for other purposes. Item number 4, 23-0-1316, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget an amount of $2,900,000.00 to transfer funds from watershed reserves for appropriation to add funds to the AIM various upgrades project and for other purposes. And lastly, item number 5, 23-0-1317, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget in an amount of $3,000,000.00 to transfer funds from watershed reserves for appropriation to add funds to the large and small meter installation and repairs project and for other purposes.
Morning, Commissioner Browning.
Morning. All right, so for the first legislation, good morning, Chairman Winston, council members, Makita Browning, Department of Watershed Management. Purposes legislation is to authorize the budget in the amount of $7.5 million to fund the Niskey Lake Dam repairs, Phase 2 construction services amendment number 1. Niskey Lake Dam is an earthen dam embankment structure that's located in southwest Atlanta near the intersection of Ryland Trail and Niskey Lake Trail and requires repairs. The project is located in District 11. DWM executed a progressive design-build agreement, Phase 1 design services of Ruby Collin, Inc., effective on May 16th of 2022, and tasks relating to Phase 1 are currently in closeout. Phase 1 efforts consisted of surveys, soil testing, subsurface exploratory testing, permitting, development of final design plans, and construction activities to repair the dam structure. The requested funds will be utilized to initiate Phase 2, construction services to repair the dam, and bring the structure into compliance pursuant to the requirement of the Georgia Environmental Protection Division Safe Dams Program. Subject to your questions.
Questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, got a motion to approve by Councilmember Shook, second by Vice Chair Boone. Mr. Johnson, can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. These items are favorable. This takes us to Section G, resolutions. Item number 6, 23-R3765. A resolution by Councilmember Jason Winston authorizing the mayor as its need, including the Chief Sustainability Officer, on behalf of the City of Atlanta to apply for and accept energy efficiency and conservation block grant from the U.S. Department of Energy in the amount not to exceed $528,333.00 for the purpose of implementing energy efficiency and conservation programs in the City of Atlanta's municipal building portfolio and for other purposes.
Thank you. Do you have a speaker to this? Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
So this is the Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant Program is a program specifically directed to states, local governments, and tribes to address their carbon emissions through the development of energy conservation strategies, anything related to reducing our utility costs, which is operations, anything to do with buildings. It is very flexible funding. Our focus is to focus on our municipal building stock with these dollars. So we know that with all the policies and strategies that we have set at City of Atlanta, we've got to lead by example. So we are working with Department of Enterprise Asset Management, Parks and Recreation, all our facilities and buildings team over the last few months to sort of validate some challenges and shape some solutions that we would be able to fund with these dollars.
Thank you. And just for the viewing audience, do you mind stating your name and title?
Oh, sorry. I'm Chandra Farley. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer.
Thank you.
And this is Michelle Madanier. She's our Clean Energy Programs Associate and has been working directly with our technical assistance partners at ICLEI. It's a local government technical assistance organization, and they specifically provide support to municipalities specifically related to this grant program. So that's been critical technical support to have. We are a member of that organization, and support for this grant comes through that membership. So Michelle's been working with them, and they're helping us develop the strategy, put it together, because it is a program application. But again, the strategy that we develop is something that we will continue to use and update as we continue to work on our decarbonization goals.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open it up for comments from my colleagues. First up is Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good to see you, Ms. Farley.
Good to see you.
You may have answered this already in your explanation, but just so I'm clear, the amount of money here is to establish a program which would essentially inform the city for future capital investments down the line. Is that accurate?
So not necessarily to develop, but help fund a lot of the work that we are already doing related to our buildings. So coming into a compliance with our commercial benchmarking energy efficiency ordinance is a part of this work. So we are actually going to be hiring a city energy manager. We've got some technical assistance. So these dollars will help us jumpstart sort of the infrastructure that we need to help move these strategies forward. And it's not a lot of, I was expecting another comma for a city the size of Atlanta, as Deputy Chief of Staff Wagner pointed out, but we will continue to use this for our long-term strategies that we've already been working on that we haven't had funding for.
Okay, and I think you hit on something that I keyed into. $500,000 is not a lot for the amount of work that we need to do. And so are y'all looking at any potential infrastructure enhancements as part of this grant program? I don't know how much solar panels cost, for instance, but I imagine just based on the amount, there's not going to be too much opportunity for those sorts of.
Right. So we are actually moving forward with our Solar Atlanta program, which is a separate program. We will be coming back to City Council pretty soon to continue to add to that program. We're actually on track to double the amount of buildings that we have solar on in the City of Atlanta, potentially over the next 3 to 5 years. So we have solar on about 23 of our buildings right now, we have the opportunity to double that. So that's a separate program. So with these dollars, we're specifically focused on decarbonization strategies, energy efficiency strategies, and we're actually working with Georgia Power, who is putting together a pilot for us, which we're referring to as Fix the Buildings, which I say a lot. So it is identifying our worst performing buildings across our municipal portfolio. And so as we identify those worst performing buildings, ideally some of those dollars, we'll be able to maybe choose 1 or 2 buildings that we'll be able to use some of these dollars for to actually make upgrades.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Approval.
Any other comments or questions from my colleagues? One quick question. I know that as part of this, it's identifying the buildings that are in the most dire need of energy efficiency upgrades. Do you already have a list of buildings that you know about, or is this part of this process?
Michelle, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so with the pilot for Georgia Power, so they identified the lowest performing buildings in their office, recreation centers, and then police and fire facilities are the building types. So we have the top 10. I think we're gonna actually extend that to like top 15 lowest performing buildings. And we actually have an Atlanta energy map that we have that has the disadvantaged communities layer on it. So we can put in the addresses of this lower performing buildings, and it will populate and show if they're within those. So this includes they're basically the energy burden layers, so greater than 5% energy burden.
Okay, and I'm sure my colleagues and I, me included, would love to see that list once it's complete, so that we can see that as well.
Yeah, and we're still, I will say we're still in the process with Georgia Power because we want to get, with our internal partners, DEEM and Parks and Rec, we want a little bit more information on how they calculated those because we haven't gotten the factors that went into that. So we want to see that first, and then we can definitely circle that.
Okay. Councilmember Lewis.
And I was waiting to hear the partners. So when I heard Georgia Power, I know a lot about this program because we're actually running a pilot in my district as well on the older home on some streets. And so I'm excited to see this program come about. This is an example of a beautiful public-private partnership. I'm excited to see this. And also, will this help us bring in more grant money?
Yes, absolutely. So as I mentioned, when we developed this, we are working on an application, but the application is essentially a strategy. So once we have this strategy developed, this will be something that we'll be able to use for other federal funding opportunities, for other public-private partnership opportunities. So we'll essentially have a roadmap that will continue because that's a small number. So yes, it will definitely inform particularly other future federal funding efforts that are super active right now.
I appreciate you all for expanding your office to do this. And I hope that the buildings in my district are the ones that are getting some of this treatment, and other districts as well, because I know they're looking at older buildings, right? And I think the goal is to upgrade the older buildings. And our city, we need that help because we have some folks who could use this help. And so I look forward to seeing you do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming with this, and I know this is something that will definitely help move the city forward. So we appreciate you looking for opportunities like this going forward. We had a motion by Councilmember Dozier. We have a second by Lewis. Mr. Johnson, can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 7, 23R3767, a resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an agreement as listed herein, on-call services for instrumentation and process control with LL Blue Engineering LLC on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management for a term of 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options, an amount not to exceed $13,050,000.00. All contract work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Mr. Chair, this item will need to be amended. The amendment will attach the IPO report to the legislation.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to amend. Second by Shook. Would you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is amended.
Fletcher, how are you?
Good morning, Councilman, Chairman Winston and council members. I am Quentin Fletcher, Deputy Commissioner for the Office of Water Treatment and Reclamation. Excuse me. The purpose of this legislation is to award and to add funding to IFBS 1230121 on-call services for instrumentation and process control. On behalf of the Department of Procurement advertised for solicitations on November 28, 2022. One bid was received and deemed responsive. The collaborative evaluation was held on March 23, 2023, generating a recommendation for award. The term of this contract is for a period of 3 years with the option of 2 one-year renewals. This contract will provide design, installation, engineering support, corrective and preventative maintenance, repairs, and replacement services for instrumentation and process control systems at the various water and wastewater treatment facilities. The services also include writing programs, installing monitoring and control cards for the department's SCADA system. This also includes the distribution telemetry system, PLCs, radios, and various other software and hardware. This request is critical as the city is required to meet the requirements of the NPDES permits issued by the Georgia Environmental Protection Division. Under these permits, the city is required to maintain critical systems to meet discharge limits to protect the public health and Chattahoochee River water quality. Subject to your question, that concludes my briefing.
Thank you. Councilmember Shook.
So I see that this bidder was originally deemed unresponsive, non-responsive, but yet here we are. So could you tell us about that?
I believe DOP, I believe during the solicitation process, it was one form that was missing, but later DOP allowed the solicitation to move forward. I believe a signature was required, and later on, we was allowed to move forward.
I appreciate that you're trying to pinch hit here for procurement. I'm sorry they're not here. I do have some follow-up questions, so that's fine. I'll simply abstain, I guess.
Any other questions or comments from colleagues? Oh, we have some.
Brad Garvey, Deputy Inspector General with the Office of Inspector General with the iPro division. The waiver that was granted is because there was a missing bid bond. It was determined that since it was on-call services, procurement determined the bid bond was not required. Just try to get some clarity on that.
Is that a code requirement or is it a standard operating procedure within procurement?
I could get back to you on that. I'm not sure it's a code requirement. I have seen there be different waivers for different requirements, and sometimes because of the competitiveness of the number of bidders, sometimes there's a business need to move things forward.
Well, that's a whole other interesting line of questions, which is why only one responded in the first place. It's never healthy.
Yeah, but I think if you look at DOP's response, they gave the reasoning of why they waived the bid bond, which had been what initially
Seen that provision waived before in prior procurement?
I think the OCGA does grant certain abilities to the chief procurement officer to waive certain provisions in the procurement process, but again, I could get back to you in detail about that.
Thank you.
Any other question or comments from my colleagues? I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a second by Boone. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open.
Sorry, good.
The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention. This item is favorable as amended. Mr. Chair, that concludes our legislative items for today.
Thank you. Do we have any other parting words from my colleagues? Seeing none, I just want to just make a quick note. Hope to see all those in attendance today at the corner of Mitchell and Washington for the unveiling of the Atlanta Children's Eternal Flame Memorial that starts at 10:30. This is for the in recognition of all the lives that were cut short during the Atlanta child murders. So this will be happening at 10:30 at the corner of Mitchell and Washington. Thank you. We stand adjourned.